Greetings to each and every one of you. I hope today finds you well. I would just like to mention the fact that you have the opportunity to donate through Patreon if you would like. If you can appreciate these and you listen to them on a regular basis and you have the heart to be able to donate maybe $1 an episode, $3, $4 a month with 4 episodes coming out, we attempt to launch one every Sunday morning, and that would be very much appreciated. If not, that's very much understood, and I encourage you to keep listening. Please subscribe. Share with other people this podcast, so if you're getting something out of it, they may possibly get something out of it. Give it a thumbs up. You could hit up the comment sections to let me know what you appreciate, and we can see how we can go forward in more episodes to be able to accommodate the people that are listening. To donate, simple enough, just hit the description. It will take you into a Patreon account. It is Patreon, Catch It, A New Perception. That is all one word. And enjoy the podcast. Enjoy each episode. Good day to you. I'm Ketuk. This is Catch It, A New Perception. It would be nice if each one of us could find a new perception each and every day of our lives as it continues to allow us to grow, to change, to treat others better. Because in that process, we will be treated much better when we learn to treat others better. It's been my experience and the experience of many people I've talked to. I've spoken a lot about the elders, the people around me, how we create balance, the things that we do. Balance could elude us for a moment, and then in the next moment, it's all there. So I've talked about the difference between being able to balance certain things like egotism, confidence. And I've given examples of an elder that will tell you how great he is because he just got done telling you how great you are. I think that these are good examples. Here's the thing that I found, is that balance comes because of what I'm offered and because of what I offer others. So if I want balance in my life, I do things to balance my life. I take action towards that. Now, for me, one of the things that I started to do at a young age, I'd go for a walk out in the woods. And sometimes it was just me out in the woods. Sometimes I'd be with others. Either way, very peaceful, very calming. It felt good. So as I get older, or at that age, I start to use foreign substances and put them in my body and try to make myself feel better. Seem to forget that I used to feel really good walking through the woods. Periodically, using those foreign substances, I would spend some time in the wilderness with a keg, some other teenagers sitting down by the river, acting as if I could appreciate the wilderness, when really we just wanted to get away from adults or society so that we could drink because it was illegal for us as teenagers to be drinking. Or the other foreign substances I would put in my body to try to make myself feel different, feel better. At the time, I thought it was feeling better. I didn't know that that was an illusion. I thought that escape that I created at that moment to try to feel better was real, and it wasn't. It was an illusion. I remember as a young child listening to music, using it somewhat maybe as an escape. Also, it brought joy. I'd hear certain lyrics. It would take me to a certain place. It was like almost an imaginary land because I could create myself being there, wherever that song would take me. So music made me feel good. Nature made me feel good. And then I brought in foreign substances and participated with the music and nature at different times in different ways, along with those foreign substances, and could never recreate what I had as a child. I have since walked into nature, spent hours walking over hills and through the trees. I believe I've never been there before, and loving every moment of it, being in the moment, being careful where I walk, sliding down a hill, falling down. All of those great things that a hike will do for me. To be one with nature at that moment, to be in that moment. This is the balance that I need. I'm not recommending this type of balance for anyone. I don't know that you ever walked into nature and felt at home, felt one, felt like you were in the moment. I don't know that that ever happened to you. Or with music. I don't know that that happened with you. I don't know that you ever received from music what I've received, where I feel peaceful. I feel one with it. So to be able to find balance in my life, I've had to return to some of these things. I've also had to do some work to reconcile my past. I've had to work on changing my perception. It wasn't just something that happened. I didn't just wake up one day and all of a sudden say, oh, I'm going to change my perception, and my perception was totally different from that day forward. That didn't happen for me. I continue to attempt to change my perception. I had the chance to spend about an hour on the phone with my daughter today. She does not live in this direct area where I live. She lives in the region, just not real close. It's a day's drive to get there and back. And so, really enjoyed the conversation with her. A really pleasant conversation. And I shared all kinds of things with her. She shared with me what's going on in her world. I shared what's going on in my world. I told her a little bit about needing to do some work to make some changes in my life because of some of the things that happened as a child in my life. And how I want to continue to change. How I want to continue to get healthier. Well, for me to bring balance into my life, I have to desire to have it. If I want my life to be all about one thing, I could do that. I don't want that. I want to be able to give in a way I never have. I want to be able to be generous with money and other things. I want to be able to be generous with my time. I want to be able to be generous with my emotions, my ability to be able to connect. You see, for me, having balance in my life means that I feel connected. Because when I bring balance in, and I can balance the ceremonies I do with the speaking engagements that I do, with the work that I do, with the volunteering that I do, with the reaching out that I do, with the listening that I do, and I can balance that. That's what I'm looking for. Each one of those things I mentioned allows me to feel connected. When I'm listening, actively listening, for some reason, for me, It's not always about looking someone in the eye when I listen. I shift. I just look over here and I listen. And I can hear. I don't know what that is. I don't know why that is. It's just a little part of me. As I find more out about myself, that may shift. And I feel connected when I listen. I feel connected when I share. I feel connected when I share my time, when I share my voice. I feel connected when I sometimes share my money. Because if that can help someone continue doing what they do, I think that that's good. Feeling connected is really important. When we feel connected, there is so much opportunity for us. And when we feel disconnected, feel like we're not enough, we don't measure up, I'm not smart enough, I'm not cool enough, I'm not tough enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not enough. That is a feeling of disconnected. Anytime I've felt like I'm not enough, I feel disconnected. And when I feel like I'm part of, I feel like I'm connected. I had a teacher. I may have shared this in another podcast, another episode of this podcast. I'll share it again if I did. It was June 1st. I moved to a new town. And I started school later that year. I believe a couple weeks before I turned 10, I started a new school. And I always liked that teacher. I always thought she was great. She was attractive in every way you could think of. She just made you want to be in her class. And I didn't realize until I was an adult, it become very conscious doing this podcast, why I was so attracted, what made her such a great teacher, why I have such great memories of my third grade teacher. Actually, the following year, she became my fourth grade teacher. She moved up a class. And I was able to elevate a class also. And still, again, I always appreciated her. And the reason I appreciate her today, as much as I ever have, is because I was the new kid, so easily pushed out, pushed around. So easily as a new kid, you can feel like you're not enough, you don't fit in. And she allowed me to feel connected. I believe it was things that she did and said that allowed me to feel connected. That was a big deal for a little kid. So there's moments in my life, even though I used foreign substances for a fair amount of my life to escape from the way that I felt and to push away from society and people and emotions and all of those things, there are moments where I had that balance, where I was gifted connectiveness. One elder I would sit with, who's now returned to the spirit world, would use the term one-ment. And I believe the way I've always seen that when I've heard him say it, I believe that that has to do with being connected and feeling connected and knowing that I am one with you. I am one with whoever is in this circle at that moment. And the beautiful thing about this podcast is that I don't know that each episode the circle will be smaller or the circle will be bigger. It has a chance for it to be big. And in a sense, we're all connected, even though we don't know each other. Maybe we've never met. And yet we're connected. That is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that connectiveness in my life because it brings me balance. When I feel connected, I feel balanced. I feel like I have enough. I feel like I am enough. I feel like I'm going to be okay today. When I feel connected, I don't suffer from depression. I don't have anxiety in my life. Connectiveness. So there's many different ways that we can find this balance that we need. Sometimes it's doing the work and reconciling our past and realizing that we need to talk to some people about some things that we did, or we need to take some action that's different, or we need to show up differently. There's many different layers to how this balance comes into our lives. And when we feel balanced and we feel connected is when we are getting to know our higher selves. That's when we are part of our higher selves, is when we're connected to the community, to that circle. Maybe a small, intimate, sacred circle, maybe a larger circle. And when we feel connected to it, that's everything. That's what we're looking for. That's what I am specifically looking for, is to feel connected and to be connected. That's why I feel connected, because I am. Generally speaking, I don't think I can feel connected unless I am. So I may have to do some work to get there, to accomplish feeling connected. And it will bring me the balance that I need. I have also felt very disconnected. There's another date, which I've probably talked about on an episode of this podcast, which I will share, about being disconnected, not having any balance in my life. And that date was a Saturday in September. It was the 28th of September. And feeling disconnected, feeling like I didn't have a friend in the world, feeling like I didn't have a place to live because I had left, and I was hitchhiking north out of Oklahoma, Tulsa area, just north of Tulsa by Salina Prior. And I wandered up into Kansas and back over to Missouri and through Joplin and up into Kansas City, and I'm sleeping on some concrete that night. And any of you that know what a pillow made of concrete feels like, in a cold, wet, rainy autumn evening, cold for autumn. I'm not talking the depths of cold in northern Minnesota, sleeping on concrete in the middle of winter. I think one reason it felt cold is because of the loneliness that I had encompassed, the disconnect that I had at that moment to almost everyone in the world. I did not do things to get connected to people and then felt like I wasn't connected and wondered what the problem was and wanted to point the finger at people outside of me rather than looking inside of me. Realizing that the problem was in me because I had done everything in my power to push away from people, to reach outside of myself, looking for a solution that was temporary and never going to work, rather than looking inside myself and saying, what can I change? You see, when I point outside of myself because you're the problem, because that's the problem, I can never change it. I can never make it right. When I look inside of myself and say, here's the problem, I have every chance in the world to make it correct. I can correct the problem if I'm the problem. If you're the problem, it will always be a problem. Therefore, I want to look at the solution. You're not the problem. The situation is not the problem. Nothing out there, outside of me, is the problem. The problem is inside of me, so I have a chance to reconcile it. I have a chance to change it. I have a chance to make it right. I can't change you or anything else in the world, so if you're the problem, I can't help it. Then it's always going to be a problem. I don't want that. I want a solution. And when I find that solution, and I know that that solution is inside of me, then I begin to find balance in my life. I no longer feel that loneliness I once felt. I have felt lonelier than I did on that Saturday in September the 28th. Many decades ago now, it feels like. I have felt lonelier than that. I have suffered from depression in a way that I wish upon no one. I have wanted to escape from the way that I feel beyond anything I could ever imagine. I may one day talk about that on an episode in this podcast. I am not prepared to throw that out today. I do know that I know what it feels like to not want to ever feel again. I know what it's like to be at the depths of depression that I hope that no one ever has to return to again. And I know that I've done a lot of work to be able to not be there today. So I need to do the work if I want to change something. And when I say that the problem is in me, that's not even being derogatory. I'm not looking down on myself and saying, well, I'm a problem. It's not like that. It's like an aha moment, like the light switch comes on, if you will, a spiritual awakening. My spirit awakens and I realize, okay, I'm the problem. And if I do the work, I can correct something so that I'm not the problem in this situation, so I have a solution. I may need to look outside of myself for help on how to change something inside of me. That's part of the balance, is being able to reach outside to another human being, to have a conversation with someone, to actively listen to someone else, take their advice, take the action I need to take to change something in me. To not have to be that depressed ever again. I have mentioned in the past a 3-digit number for a suicide hotline. That number is 988. I mention it because if you know someone that is that depressed, or you get to that point yourself where you feel like you're not enough, you don't measure up, and you no longer want to live life, I encourage you to dial 988. It is a 3-digit suicide prevention hotline, for lack of a better term. They will do their best to assist you to get the help that you need, or to assist someone that you love or someone that loves you with that help. So I encourage you if you do ever get to that point that you feel that disconnected, that you lack balance in your life enough that you want to end your own life, I encourage you to dial 988 and talk to someone and take the action that they suggest, because just talking to them will not be enough. It may bring you out of where you're at the moment if you don't take the suggestions that are suggested. You may return to that same dark, that same low place. However, whatever terminology you put on it, you could return to that same place. And if you're listening to this podcast, I want to make sure that everyone is in a position to not have to take their own life. So moving forward, I will do what I can to encourage myself through this podcast and hope that each episode encourages someone to be able to want to think different so that they can feel different. Encourages someone to be able to take the action to not have to end their own life because they feel like they're at their wits' end. They feel like they're at their jumping off point and nothing's going to help. I believe that something will help if you take the action and you make that phone call. You tell someone. If you have a plan, you definitely make that phone call. And for those of you that don't understand the depths that someone can go to get to that point, you should feel fortunate, because some of us have. And it's a difficult place to be. Looking forward to next time. Hoping each and every one of you find the journey that you need to take you to the place that you need to be. So your mind, your spirit, and your soul are exactly what you need them to be today. Live in harmony with and use the bounty of the land to bring kindness to the world.